Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back for yet another episode of the Waterlife Debrief podcast. I'm so honored to be back on air today with some very special guests. The most special of them all is Ava Setzer. Okay.
Let's go.
What's your nickname around here, Ava?
Ava the intern.
Ava the intern. She's with us for a special episode today. But like always, I guess I do have to do an introduction here. But
well, and shout out to Alex the intern on the camera.
Alex the intern, he's behind the scenes. So get fired up.
If it's out of focus, send an email to alex@waterlifechurch.com.
That's right. We haven't made that email yet, but I will.
But go ahead and send
response. Yes.
And at waterlifechurch.com.
All right.
So
let's go.
You've already been introduced to their mouths, but I'll go ahead and tell you who's behind the mouth. So this is our lead pastor, Todd Braswell.
You see her mocking me?
And this is our
She's mocking me.
discipleship pastor, Kevin Burns. God. So get fired up.
She puts on that,
no introduction.
She puts on that tough girl jean jacket, and then she's going to mouth off. Look at this. Look at this.
I got my girl with me today, so we good.
We got it.
We got it.
All right,
we got girl power going on here.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
I know. Now that estrogen's balanced out in here, I get pushed out by you guys sometimes. So, all right, we'll get fired up. Well, we're excited for another episode, and a little bit later, one thing that we need to promote now is going to be Waterlife Works. So we'll have Kevin talk about that here in just a second. Mm-hmm. But then later, we're going to be recapping the thing that we've been promoting for the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about Connect Camp later and all the wins with that. But now we're going to talk about Waterlife Works. So that is coming up very quickly. We're right on the heels of that. So why don't you tell our people what all that's about?
Well, and needless to say, you want to go to the website and sign up for Waterlife Works. It's an opportunity on August 29th from 9 to 12 to serve in our community. We've got some great ladies that are helping us, but going into the schools, doing landscaping, doing some of the needed things to beautification projects.
Yep.
And so that's very crucial, but we need all hands on deck. And so you can sign up. We've got a form. You can tell us what school you're interested in and what tools you have available.
Yep.
So we do need you to sign up.
And with that, just FYI for the church family that's been around for a while, so we've done this for a long time. We always did it in May, and it was kind of like we would do it, and then they'd be out of school in 4 weeks. And so we shifted it toward the fall. So beautify the school, maybe it lasts a little bit longer. Also, another thing to let people know, this is child friendly. We are basically doing mulch. We always invite people to bring their children, and kids can serve. We had kids running a chipper one time, which was pretty funny. Well,
absolutely.
There was adult supervision.
I was about to say, adult supervision.
They were letting them throw little things in it. But we love to get the kids out serving. And like I said, it's just, if we're done by noon and we're out of here, but we try to hit every school that wants us. We go to the school and beautify the school.
15
so
or
it's a good time.
16 sign up,
schools
sign up, and so I think last year we may have had 20. And so anyways, we're like right on track with all of that. So again, we need all the volunteers on hand that we can, and then, we get the job done. And there's a lot of schools that'll finish by like 10, and then we can sometimes move them along, and we just work together as a team till the job's done.
We're not messing around, we're working.
Exactly.
Let's go.
It's important for all of our listeners to check their email. And if you don't have the form, let us know. We'll send you the form so you can sign up at the preferred location that works for you.
So we're always driving towards something.
Yes.
So it was camp. Now we're rolling to Waterlife Works. Then we got a fall revival coming. Oop, I shouldn't have said anything. And get fired up on that. And then we're rolling into, I'm talking to the Bartons right now. The Bartons maybe in February. Ted Cunningham in January. So there's always
did bypass a very important season.
And the discipleship
and that's called the discipleship classes
starting
look
16. Look at Kevin plugging his ear. See how Kevin gets defensive plugging his ear.
Like, see
that? Always pushing to something.
I know, yeah. Tell us about that too, Kevin, while you're at it.
Because we don't want babies. We want disciples. Right, Todd?
Trademark.
Get fired up.
Trademark and shirt.
It's on Kevin's shirt, but you can't see it right now.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, August 16th starts our discipleship classes, Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday. Parenting class on Wednesday, Todd's class on wisdom on Wednesday. Monday is a ladies class, a men's purpose class, and Sunday night's a But God class.
You've got a parenting class on Wednesdays too, right?
Yep.
So there's a little
It's how to ruin your
everybody.
children in 3 steps.
Exactly.
Led
by Kevin Burns.
Absolutely.
How to ruin
I'll
your
give you
children
every
in 3 steps.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we got that covered these days.
Yeah.
But anyways,
it's going to be good.
An awesome
it is going to be good.
Yeah, we're always headed towards something, and God is up to some really awesome things here at the church, and we want you all to be plugged in every step of the way. And the opportunities are there, but you just got to take them. So,
let's go.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Well, so like I said, we'll go ahead and kind of take a deep dive into your sermon today. let you kind of cover that. And then we've got a couple questions that we want to hit. And then later on, we're going to celebrate generosity and what God did through Connect Camp this past week. We want to share that with our people again. Kevin got to hit it this morning in the offering, but it's never too much to talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it all the time because God's done miraculous things. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so today you talked about generosity of the promise. So I know this is something that you love to preach on. I don't know if people love to hear it, but you love to talk about it.
I don't care. Like I said, listen, I mean what I say. If the Bible speaks about it, we're going to speak about
Amen.
it. Like we're going to. So the Bible addresses this a ton, and I love this topic for a lot of reasons. So I love this topic. First of all, this is one of the areas in life that I know from experience because I grew up in a home where my dad taught this to us. Like my family was good with money. They taught us that. Our church taught us that. Becky came from a family that was like-minded, so they were the same way. Mm-hmm. So we rolled into marriage where we weren't like some people on opposite ends of the thing. So we were on the same page with that. So we knew, obviously we were single. We were given to God when we were single people, and we had jobs. From the moment I had an allowance, my dad, mom taught me to give it to God first. Save second, put in the piggy bank, and then live on the rest. That just, I was taught that from a boyhood and through marriage. And so for Becky and I, we never argued about that. We were on the same page. We have always, we give to God first, we save second, we live on the rest. And that has been something that has been an absolute blessing. Because look, I'm telling you, we made very, very little money in the early days. And it allowed us to do things like, number one, Becky wanted to stay home with the kids. We wanted to do that. And we were able to do that just because we knew how to manage money. For me, my dad terrified me of debt. The Bible speaks to that. The Bible says in Proverbs, it says that the borrower is the slave to the lender. And that's 100% true. And so I was terrified of debt. So to this day, I got a credit card, but that we've never had a balance on it. Left a balance on it. We just use it for online stuff, but we just don't, we've just been afraid of debt. We buy used cars. I got a fleet of them and I collect them like bad habits. And, the debt we've had was in a house. We got that paid off, praise the Lord, but we've just been on the same page with that. Now, what she and I buy might be a little different. Like she thinks I spend too much money on my things, but
she's right.
No, she's wrong. She buys too many pillows and gadgets. But anyway, other than that, but like there's never been a time where I've put our family, and I was telling Beth, we were talking about this one day. I said, look, there's never been a time that I bought something that put us in financial, it's just like my stuff it's just expensive, but I buy good stuff, I take care of it and it lasts. But anyway, we've seen from our own experience, the blessing that brings. Like we've been there when something breaks and everybody hates that. And as much as we hate going and getting $4,500 or whatever it was to go replace the HVAC, we didn't have to freak out because it was in the bank.
Right.
Yeah. When you don't have that, you got to put it on the pay. Like you freak out, right? There's just we just know from experience that works. And I want other people to experience that. And so we teach this financial class here, and I've seen when people get on that program and they stick with it and they get it, there's a way to get out of that old, system of, not managing money well, and it'll bless their life too.
Right.
And, Jocko Willink has a thing. I got a t-shirt, but then I love the slogan. It's a biblical principle, whether he realizes it or not. He says, discipline equals freedom. And if you'll be disciplined with your finances, there's just freedom on the backside of that. And so I love to talk about it because it's one of those things that is really, really a lot of people struggle with, and it's easy. And I understand not everybody came from a home like I did, wasn't taught that. A lot of people came from a home that was just the norm. Everything was in debt up to our ball. You learn where you come from, but that doesn't mean you have to stay there. So I love talking about the topic. Jesus talked about it all the time. Bible talks about it all the time. So it's a great topic to speak about because we can get people to shift that focus. Because we live in such a self-centered world. We live in such a world that is money-focused and material-focused that you can get people to see it a different way. And then it opens up the joy on the back end to be able to give to things. I mean, I look at I just smiled when I got that word after cleaning up the toilets. And we're sitting there, and I said, how many? I'd asked, I forgot who I'd asked. I said, what's the number? And I heard 13, and I'd already had a couple little girls run up to me that day. Pastor Todd, I got saved.
Yep.
I gave him a big hug, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm so thankful. I literally mean that I get an opportunity to give here. I mean, it's like, I love the fact that we get to give to that. It's like, Michelle Kirby from Caldwell Pregnancy Care Center. I'm on the board there, and they're one of our partner ministries, and they had me speak this year at the fundraising banquet. And Michelle was like, wanting me to speak, and then she asked me, she said, are you comfortable asking for money? I'm like, Oh, heavens, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, of course. I'm like, what an easy ask to keep babies from being aborted.
Right.
Yeah.
Like to help, game on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's an organization, that's a ministry Becky and I give to, and over and above, in addition to our church giving, it's one of the partner ministries that we give to. But I just love the joy of being able to do this. So what I'm saying is, I love this, and we want people to win with this. And the Bible does. There's a word the word prosperity. The word prosperity in the Bible literally means that we would do well. Mm-hmm. God wants us to do well. That doesn't mean Cadillacs and parachuting your drive, but He wants us to do well. And I think when we use God's plan, that give, save, live, you get on that plan. And it does take time for people to correct problems if they've gone down a path and their finances are upside down. But we have a class and a plan to do that. You get on that plan. It works for the people that will stick with it. And I stress that, stick with it, because that discipline equals freedom in the long term. Right. But it's just one of those things. I love to talk about it. I find it interesting that there is always, like we talked today about the resist and the resentment of that. Mm-hmm. And I kind of chuckle at that, because I'm like, you realize when you resist and resent that and you're mad about that, you're proving exactly what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
That money just has that tendency to grab our heart. So it's a good thing to talk about. It is a discipleship principle, as we said yesterday. Regardless of what people say, money's discipleship. It's churches that don't talk about it. I don't know why you won't talk about it. It is a major part of life. Jesus talked about it and said it's the number one competitor between our heart, between us and God. So you got to talk about it.
Right.
And like I said, the Bible just has so much to say about it, and it's always broken down in two camps. Jesus spends most of his time talking about the proper view of money, keeping it in the proper place. Mm-hmm. And then Proverbs and a couple other places are kind of about more the view of hey, here's how to use it properly. So watch out for debt, work hard, save, live within your means, that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, it'll set you free if you live that. So I'd love to see people do that. And we've got some great stories around here of people that were in a mess, took the class, put in the time, did the work, and came out on the other side and are now living Give, Save, Live, and their life is very, very different. So it was one of those things that if somebody will get on it, man, it's a blessing. And like I said, for us, for Becky and I, if she was here, she'd tell you it's been an absolute blessing for us over the years, because we made, I'm telling you, I don't know how it was when Kevin, you and Leah started out in ministry, but man, we didn't make no money. Mm-hmm. They, the church did the best they could, but it was just, we made very little money.
Right.
But thank God we didn't have any debt.
Right.
And I know how to fix cars and different things. But we have seen the blessing of God through that as well. And I'm convinced the blessing of God, we'll talk about health and wealth, prosperity, gospel nonsense here in a few moments, but I'm convinced, I've watched things where I'm convinced God makes things last longer. Mm-hmm. God is just taking care of us through this whole thing as we've done that. And
So Kevin, did you have any feedback from whenever you and Leah were first starting out?
I mean, similar to Todd's story.
Kevin's made of money. Don't let
exactly.
it.
I don't know why.
He's a trust fund.
I know. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I mean, with that, you had to manage it correctly, and be careful, wise, frugal, with the expenses, but also trust God. I mean, He does supply. I mean, there's been times to where it's just we don't know, but He does supply, and so I mean, you honor Him, He'll honor you. Mm-hmm. He'll bless you, I should say.
I'm gonna be honest, me and Chris blew it up. We made a big old mistake. We're
gonna fix that. We're working on it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted, and I'm so glad that you hit on that, because I'm like, if you have not been raised to do these things and you were not taught these things, it is not too late to start. Because that's I mean, I used to tell you all the time, I felt guilty, we were tithing and stuff, but I was even doing the offering on Sunday morning, I was I feel like a phony because I'm working myself out of this. But it's honestly, our culture is geared toward pushing people to do these things. You said, it's buy here, pay here. You get the finance. You don't have to pay for 90 days, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and look at so you got quite a few churches won't talk about it because pastors some church are afraid to talk about it because they get pushback.
Right.
That's nonsense. Don't be a coward, preach the Bible. But so we get that, and some people don't come into a church where that's really taught about, or they just get they get the tipping view of that, or whatever it is. They just really don't get it. And then you got a society that works completely 100% against financial responsibility.
Right.
Everything is the same as cash, 90 days. Everything, you can get everything on credit very easily. You can get up into your dead eyeballs. It's I told my sons all the time, when they're buying something, they're like, hey, we talked to that guy and he's going to cut us a deal. I'm like, okay, stop, time out. That guy's not your friend.
Correct.
He's not, he's just got a job to do, and he's a salesman, and his job is to get the most money out of you. That is not the last car that exists on the planet. Yep. They always tell you that's not the last, look, pump the brakes, be willing to walk away. Just be smart about that. But our world, like I said, doesn't teach us to do that, and it teaches us you want instant gratification. Why wait? When I came up, now I'm old, but when I came up, you got an apartment. When you got married, you got an apartment, then you moved to the starter house, and then maybe you got a bigger house, that kind of thing. Well, now everybody, like, I'm amazed. Sometimes I go in these houses and I'm like, where are they getting this money? And I'm in the debt to my eyeballs. Our house was tiny. Our first house was tiny, and I mean, our house now is not huge, like, but it's so different now, and it's so easy to get in a financial mess because of how they do things. So I don't fault people. And a lot of people, like I said, the majority of people, I'm going to stress that the majority of people, even in the church, do not know God's financial plan, and just finances are a mess because of that.
Right.
And that's why, we talked today about one of the warning signs is what more money will fix all my problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we had a guy that worked with us one time years ago. The guy was always, had a good job, always tight on finances, this, that, and the other. And then he started doing some contract work with us, and we were paying him at the time like $200 a week, just contract to do whatever we needed him to do. I can't remember, somewhere in the tech area. And like, to me, man, $200 extra a week, that's real money. Mm-hmm. I think that's real money now. Right. Do you not, Natalie? Natalie doesn't. Look at her.
That's economy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I go to Longhorn and spend $100.
Ooh, yeah. Don't go to Longhorn.
Support local. No.
But anyway, like literally that guy was asking, like, he had gotten that $200 a week, already had a good job, always upside down his finances, got $200 more a week, and then was right back in the same pattern, was asking for an advance on his salary. And I'm like, oh, heavens no. And it's like, and because he didn't correct any of the problem, he just had more money to spend, made bigger mess. So a lot of people, that's why they think, if I can just have more money, that's my solution. It's not. If you don't know how to manage it well, and you don't have that discipline in that, it will always be a problem. So like I said, don't fault people. Like, a lot of people don't grow up in this. Our culture does not encourage financial responsibility. A lot of churches don't speak on it, don't teach about it the right way. So it's good to be able to talk about it. It may be uncomfortable for some people, but it's good to talk about the Bible. Like, my philosophy is, my job is like, look, I put it out there, make it clear, make it understandable, challenge people to follow it, myself included. Mm-hmm. And what you do with it's your business. That's between you and God. But like, we're not going to shy away from it, because it is really life-giving. And I mean it. Like Kevin says, God will take care of you when you do that. But there's just something about it when you open the door and start doing things God's way. Step of obedience is always a step in the right direction. Right. Step of faith is always a step in the right direction. And giving is going to be both of those. Mm-hmm. It's going to be obedience to God to do that. And it's going to be a faith, because a lot of times people are like, well, how can I do that? We teach you how in the class, but it's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, you alluded to it today, but it's one word, it's discipline. I mean, because we live in the culture of the now, and everybody wants it now. Mm-hmm. And realistically, back years ago, when I was in college, I was a salesman. Mm. And I could pick. Of course you were. I could pick out those people that were desperate. Mm-hmm. I could pick out those people that were dumb. Mm-hmm. And I could pick out those people that were suckers.
Okay, just be honest, Kevin.
I'll just be honest with you, but they made me a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So, because it's just like, I convinced them why they needed
this.
Like, this needs to be a different
I know, this is another episode.
Comes out. All right.
The dumb people.
Okay, Zacchaeus, I see you. Anyway.
Now Kevin's selling for the Lord, which is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well,
God, great work in you, Kevin.
God redeemed me. Now I pick out people that
there you go.
Are lost. People are broken.
You're a sucker because you don't have Jesus in your life. Let's fix that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love helping them then.
Yes, I know you do.
But yeah, I mean, and that's where the discipline of it is crucial. Is understanding what you have, what you can spend, getting on a budget, and of course keeping God at the center of that budget.
100%.
Well, it's kind of fun. It kind of becomes like kind of becomes like a game whenever you're like saving. I'm like, that's how it works for me mentally. I like have fun every week now. My mom makes fun of me, but I be shopping like the grocery sales ads and stuff. She's like, you remind me so much of my mom right now. And my grandma was super frugal, and I'm like, it kind of becomes like a game. You're like, I'm going to see if I can like stay on track with this and be disciplined and stay on track. And so it's fun for me. Chris, maybe not so much, but he doesn't really have to worry about it. So
saving money is always good.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we'll move along now that we've spent so much of our time but it's good stuff, because I think that people need to know that like all areas are covered at the table.
Are you insulting me? Like,
I would never.
Yeah. Ava, you see what's going on?
I would never. So anyways, moving on. So, all right. So here today, we're going to talk about discernment. Okay. So that's a biggie there. And we're going to talk about health and and Wealth Prosperity Gospel. And then we're going to talk about some practical tips with Ava from a young adult standpoint. And then we're going to talk about generosity on display here at our church. So those are the things that we're going to cover here in the next few minutes. So first of all, we're going to talk about discernment. And one of the first topics that we wanted to cover is how do you know when to give and where to give? How can you be sensitive to what God's telling you to do there?
All right. Well, right off the bat, first of all, when it comes to tithing, when it comes to giving, the Bible tells us in Malachi 3, it says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. And so, and in the background of that, God's coming to the people through the prophet Malachi and saying, look, man, you're ripping me off. You're treating me disrespect. They were bringing animals with 3 legs. I mean, they're doing all the wrong things. It was just a game to them. They weren't honoring the Lord, but doing what he says. And he says, look, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. So God is saying, like, the tithe comes into, the storehouse then, that's the temple, the tabernacle, all that kind of stuff back in the Old Testament. But today, that'd be the church. So I think first and foremost, when it comes to tithing and giving, I'm a big believer, it goes to the church that we attend. Like, I've had people before saying, well, I'm giving it to the Animal Rescue League. That's not tithing. That may be generosity, but it's not. And I'm serious. I've had people do that. They're like, I'm going to send this to this and this to this and this to this. And I mean, I think you give to God through the local church first, period. Like, now today, I told everybody, like, if you think we're after your money, go ahead and give it. Hashtag these other churches, whatever. I want a thank you note from them. Yes. But anyway, but then, when you realize we're not after your money, like we're here for you. We want something for you, not from you, basically. And you come back, but it goes to the local church first and foremost, because you're doing what God asks and you're being generous. Now, once you do that, then there's this discernment about, okay, what are the other things I should give to? Well, like, for instance, Becky and I, we give to the Caldwell Pregnancy Care Center. I mentioned that a moment ago. There's a couple other things we'll give to. Every now and then we get asked when there's one of our students is going to work for a ministry organization in the summer or something to raise some money, we'll give to that, different things like that. But one thing I feel confident in, like, I don't walk around all the time feeling guilty that I should give to everything that I see. Like, for instance, like, somebody's over there trying to raise money for something for the homeless. I'm like, well, we give to the church, which supports 8K for 8C. We give over and above to that as well, and that goes to support Yokefell, which does that. So I am doing that, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like going through the church is a huge thing, because remember, our church here has our local partner ministries. We have things going on that they're taking care of. Women in abusive relationships. We got, the pregnancy center, taking care of women and babies and families and doing all those good things. You got Yokefellow, Daily Bread Storehouse, providing food. I mean, so we're doing a lot of this. So when you're giving to the local church, if you're to give into a good local church that's got a good budget and mission-minded, you're going to be doing some of these things.
Addiction relief.
Right, exactly, Kevin. Bethel and all that. So we don't, so I don't walk around feeling guilty that, like, every time there's something, but you do pay attention to where is God drawing your heart. Now, I don't know about y'all, but the Lord will do the little testaroos with me.
Okay,
testaroos.
Okay,
let me explain.
Todd, take.
Yeah.
So the Lord sometimes will just all of a sudden, like, you should give to that, but I don't want to give to that. And there's always these random things sometimes that God will put in my mind, and I know that a little test, like, well, let's see if you're generous or not. Yeah, you're tithing, you're doing that, you got that licked, but I'm going to throw this extra one. What you going to do?
He said licked, by the way, not lit. You remember whenever that was a dispute in your message a couple years ago, you literally said, and all of them said that we got that lit, and we all thought that you used the term lit.
I am not trying to be hip.
I know, anyways.
Past those. I don't know.
But it's like, okay, are you really generous? Because God will put something
on God will put me, and sometimes it's like I've heard it taught before that money is always a test and a trust. And there's just those little things God will prompt, like, you should give to that. Now I try to follow the Spirit's leadership in that, right? When those things come, but God will give me those kind of tests from time to time. And so on those extra things, sometimes for me, it's going to be a case by case basis. What's the Holy Spirit leading me to do?
Right.
Right? But I don't walk all around all the time feeling guilty and feeling I'm going to need to give to every cause, because I give through the local church, and our church supports a lot of these causes. Right. Does that make sense? Yep. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not supposed to, when there's opportunities, but I follow the Spirit's leadership on that, or whether I do or whether I don't. Right. Now, I would suggest this for people when it comes to giving to something outside the church. Remember, bring the tithe into the storehouse first. That's important. Give to your church first. And then, please don't give to ministries that aren't Bible believing.
Correct.
That's big.
I mean, make sure you understand who you're giving to. You know, make sure there are people that Jesus oriented and all that.
They will try to sell you on that too.
Yeah, and people that have good financial accounting and practices and all that kind of stuff. Make sure it's a legit ministry. Yeah. But on a case by case basis, I follow the Spirit's leadership. Now, the Bible talks about anyone who knows the good he ought to do and doesn't do it sins. So like there's that, there's sins of commission where you actually do, but there's also sins you can do because you don't do something. So I always try to remind myself of that. James talks about what good is it if you tell Natalie, stay warm and well fed, praying for you, and yet I don't do anything to help you. Like, that's blowing smoke. That's a bunch of jokes. So you do have this responsibility, but I'm going to take that on a case-by-case basis. But I'm not going to walk around feeling guilty all the time,
right?
Trying to respond to everything because, like, I prioritize my giving through the church. I'm pre-deciding. I'm being generous there already. Our church is supporting those things, so I feel pretty good about that. But then, just on a case-by-case basis. I mean, that's how I do it. I mean, I know a lot of people walk around feeling guilty all the time, but I don't. I just don't walk around feeling guilty. But I will follow if God is prompting me to do something, then I'm going to do it.
Right.
Because I know the devil's not telling me to do it.
Right. Exactly.
Right. But Kevin, you got any thoughts?
I mean, you said it fully there. I mean, in Proverbs 3, it says, "Bring your first fruits." And of course, that's bringing it to God first, and then everything else from there. Again, I go back to the discipline aspect, and you've got to be intentional because the world wants you to spend. And again, in the culture of the now, I got to have this, I got to have that, I got to have that. And a lot of times we end up giving God leftovers. And he talked about it today. But I mean, you've got to be disciplined enough to where, I mean, just like with us and what we've tried to train our kids is that, okay, immediately when you get something, goes to God first, and then you spend the rest, or you enjoy the rest.
Right.
And so sometimes it works, sometimes it does not.
Right.
And so, but again, we're trying to set that example, and that's what I try to encourage people. Even when we taught the Joe Sangel class that Todd's referring to, is that you honor God, He will bless you.
Yeah. And speaking of that, let me read that whole passage from Malachi 3. It says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house." Okay, so this God's talking about his church. "Test me in this, says the Lord." Now, everywhere else in the Bible says, "Don't test me."
Right.
But in finance, he says, "Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it." Like, I love that. So he's like, bring the tithe into the storehouse. Like, when you're doing that, you are being generous. Like I said, in a good Bible-believing church like ours, we're supporting a lot of ministries. So you don't have to walk around feeling guilty about having to give to everything all the time.
Right.
But be discerning about, but I would advise everybody, if the Holy Spirit's leading you to give to someone or to something, do that.
For sure.
Well, that's what I'd like to input. I mean, because I've been in ministries a couple decades, but just notating all the vast and diverse ministries that Waterlife Church supports.
Right.
And where when you tithe, when you give the money, it's going to help a vast number of people in a diverse area of people.
Case in point, good point, Kevin. So also, for the average person that's out there listening to this, that, you're a giver here at Waterlife Church and you've been giving, and we had Connect Camp last week. Well, hey, that thing costs thousands and thousands of dollars to put on. You help that make happen. But also, let me tell you what they did. Because we have a budget line item for benevolence, you help fund kids to get here.
Correct.
Right? Because, Natalie, you guys handled a lot of that and gave scholarship, discounts and things to people. So, this, you got a part in that, and you're already doing these things.
Right.
Now, is God leading you to give extra to help a kid get here? Maybe so, do that. But what I'm saying, you're already doing that when you're giving through the ministry of the local church.
Right.
So, there you go.
Okay.
Start with the church first and let it fly from there.
Right. So now this is going to kind of take a little bit of a turning point, but not really. So sometimes just in our personal, day-to-day lives, like you said, there will be some things where you can feel God really pressing on you, yeah, you should give to that. But other times we may just to give an example. So say that we're on Facebook and you know that we are in the world of GoFundMe's and things like that.
Listen,
you hate the term.
I say go fund yourself. That stuff drives me nuts. I'm like, man, I've seen people. I had a guy one time I skateboarded with. He was trying to have everybody do the GoFundMe for his engagement ring and his honeymoon and everything. I'm like, that's a hard nut.
I know. I can't remember if it was you or Becky, but one of y'all asked me because people will write on their windows with the window paint and stuff, and they'll be fund this or whatever, send it to my Venmo. And so, anyways, we're just in this culture where it's people would just post online and you can just be flooded with people and they may be going through a genuine hardship. But one thing that we were talking about before this is sometimes there tends to be people that we might recognize that they're always going through a hardship, or that they might be going through a hardship, but then the next week you see them on vacation or doing something lavish or whatever. And so we can have good intentions in our hearts to help people and to be generous, but at what point are we being taken advantage of, and should we maybe like back up and maybe consider a different route, just whenever it comes to our generosity and having boundaries. We talked about boundaries last week. And
there is some discernment, and I would say stop being generous with someone when they don't do their part, when they're unwilling to do their part. Now, I can give you biblical backing for that.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. I got to put on my glasses here so I can read. So, sorry. Second Thessalonians, Paul's talking about this because this stuff shows up in the early church. It's a problem. And he says this. I love this. He's like, in the name of the Lord. And he starts off, man, in the name of Jesus. He said, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you, brothers, to stay away from every brother who is idle and does not live according to the teaching you received from us. So it's like they're sitting in the church, they're lazy, and there was a group of people that were trying to mooch off the church in that day. Who knew?
Go figure.
Go figure. And I'm glad that doesn't happen anymore. Anyway, and he says, for you yourselves know how you ought to follow our example. He said, we were not idle when we were with you. This is Paul speaking, right? He says, nor did we eat anyone's food without paying for it. And we said we weren't mooching everybody. On the contrary, we worked night and day, laboring and toiling, so that we would not be a burden to any of you. We did this not because we do not have the right to such help, but in order to make ourselves a model for you to follow. For even when we were with you, we gave you this rule. Here it is, in quotes. If a man will not work, he shall not eat. And he says, we hear that some among you are idle. They are not busy. Look at this. They are busybodies.
Wow.
Such people we command and urge in the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and earn the bread they eat. And as for you, brothers, never tire of doing what is right. If anyone does not obey our instruction in this letter, take special note of him. Do not associate with him in order that he may feel ashamed. Yet do not regard him as an enemy, but warn him as a brother. Now, that's not the only place. Get fired up. I mean, he's like, look, we're not, if we're trying to help you get on your feet, but you're not going to do your part.
Right.
We have no obligation to help. Like, if you're not going to work, we're not going to keep funding you. Right. That's what Paul was saying. So that's the thing. There was another case in the New Testament that you had a bunch of widows. Now, in that ancient world, when you had a widow, that's a big problem because there was no means of really support, and especially if you didn't have family. So Paul laid out a directive. The church will take care of the widows that don't have family.
Right.
They will come under the financial support of the church. But for widows that had family, it was the family's responsibility.
Correct.
And so Paul makes that, and that's where that passage is about, quoted this morning, where he's talking about, he says, the person that won't take care of his own family is worse than an unbeliever. So there are those times, and we've all had that time. It's the person that can't get their act together, and they're constantly coming, I need gas money, I need money on rent, I need money because I'm behind on my power bill, and they just cannot get their act together. Right. At some point, you're like, on your own. Like that, and that's not, you don't have to feel bad about that. We help people, but people have to learn to help themselves a little bit. Now, granted, we do things like that too. We require people like, look, we're going to help you in this, but you need to get in this financial class, and we're not going to keep doing this forever. And you need to get in here. You got to take personal responsibility and do that. Same thing. I got people that come by here from time to time. Some of the homeless community will come by and they ask, you got some work? I'm like, I do. Yeah. I do. I said, I tell you what, you come out here and weed these flower beds, I'll pay you at the end of the day. Okay, I'll be back. Nobody's ever taken me up on it yet. So, I mean, sometimes you just got to say no.
Right.
And like I said, everybody's going to have that person too. That constant person just can't get their act together and keeps going on. You don't need to feel guilty about saying, you know what, I've helped you. And we've helped you multiple times, and we're kind of at the end of that. You got to grow up. You got to wise up. You're going to have to take care of this on your own at this point. So that's and you don't have to feel guilty about that either.
As a person, it's a perfect time to put into practice what we do here. When somebody wants benevolence, as we talk to them, we share the gospel with them, depending on the circumstance. But then also we keep records to, are they a repeat customer? If you want to call it that. But then also, and again, our listeners know this is where your tithe goes. is helping the community with needs.
Right.
And we encourage them, okay, this is a way to where it's not to get out of that problem.
Right.
To where it's not a repetitive.
Right.
I mean, because a $2,000 power bill does not happen overnight.
Exactly.
In many other instances. But again, it's a practice that you've got to realize. You've got to put goals in place to get yourself out of that, and then we'll come along and help you.
Right.
Well, let me give you an example of real world where we had to cut somebody off in the church. Like, this was not here at this church. This is when I was a pastor in Forest City. When I worked there as a youth pastor way back when, in the 90s.
With the long hair.
Whoa.
Yeah. And anyway, so when we were there, we had a family there. This family had moved down from up north, low income people. They had come down. The moment they got down to town, they had come looking for work. The husband had a job lined up, and he just suddenly dies out of the blue. So this woman is left low income with 3 kids. Wow. Well, one of our deacons, we had deacons at the time, they took this family under the wing, got them to church, and started helping them. Really generous guy named Charles. And the church family just kind of adopted these folks. They were in my youth ministry. They were in the children's ministry. I worked with them and stuff. And the church bent over backwards to help them. I mean, just everywhere, to help make sure they could get to camps, make sure they had money, had food, had clothing, all this kind of stuff. But we started seeing some bad patterns along the way with this mom, And the final straw for us was we worked with them for quite a few years, and we saw a couple things. First of all, the children were learning this pattern of entitlement as well. And I remember having to kind of, teach the young lady that was in that family, like, you're not going to stand up here and look bad. So all the youth will buy you things. I was trying to teach her how to manage money. You got some spending money. We gave you spending money for this. That's what you have. I remember being at a restaurant one time. We were at a conference, and I said, and I was helping this lady. Her name was Adrian, the young lady. I said, I'm going to teach you how to manage money. So we're looking at the menu. I said, well, Adrian, what do you like? Well, I like steak. I said, well, Adrian, I like steak too, but we don't have money for that. Like we are not, like, this is what we have. Anyway, so we're doing all this work with them, trying to help them along the way. But the mama, she wasn't a bad lady, but she just couldn't get her act together. And she was working a part-time job, and she was on government assistance, but the church was helping her. Now, where the church stopped, and this is, we'd helped them for a couple years. The mom had an opportunity, a great job. One of our deacons was a plant manager of one of the cone mills and got her a job with the canteen. It was like the food service thing that works in all the plants.
Right.
It was a job that had the hours that it was when her kids were in school. It was perfect, had benefits, everything. But she had to work hard, full-time job, but an opportunity to better herself. She said no to that job because she'd rather stay on the government assistance and just do the part-time job and not have those benefits taken away. And it was at that point we were like, we've done all that we know to do.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody treated them bad. They were still working with the church, but we're like, okay, we're going to back up because we have helped, and you're not helping yourself.
Right.
And so at some point, we're just going to step back from that.
Right.
And so that's one of those examples. Now, we didn't treat anybody like a pariah. We didn't, do anything like that. But we're just like, okay, we've done about us enough. She's not going to help herself. And and so anyway, that's just one of those real world things on that sometimes you do have to draw the line there.
Right.
But I think that what you say is that's a discipleship issue, because again, that's listening to the Holy Spirit. In that stead. If you've gone enough, and of course they're going to tug at you because of their situation. They're always going to come up with a different situation. But again, if you know that you've done as much as you can and you've taken them on a journey, and of course that's very gracious for 2 years, then, okay, it's time for them to spread their wings.
What's bad about that too is, like, with those kids, like, there was one kid that kind of got out there, and the older one, and he got in the Army, and he did, and he turned out okay, kind of broke that pattern, but the other two stayed right in that pattern, and to this day. So it's really sad. But like I said, we the amount of help, church bent over backwards to help that family forever, and that was kind of the point where it's like, she's just not willing to help herself.
Right.
And everybody took a step back at that time. Nobody's mean, but sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
All right. So now we're going to take another left turn.
Uh-oh.
And a few moments ago, you had brought up the word prosperity and how, did you say it means to go and do well?
That we would do well.
That we would do well.
That we would do well.
Okay. So as you bring that up, this is kind of a hot button topic or whatever in the church. We see sometimes churches take up this route, and we do not take it here, but just something we wanted you to hit on today is the health and wealth prosperity gospel.
So basically, let me just real quick give you a definition for those that don't know what that means. So that means if you have enough faith, if you have enough faith, first of all, you never have any problems.
Right.
You'll never be sick. God will always heal you. All this kind of stuff. Same thing. If you're giving, you're going to get in return, tenfold. Like it's almost like it's an investment plan, And granted, we've already read, God will bless you.
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't mean parachuting Cadillacs, into your driveway.
Right.
God's blessings are big, but God will take care of you. 100%. I speak from experience. But a lot of people just kind of preach. It's this kind of like I give to get routine, and it's like you basically end up teaching and treating God like a genie in a bottle. And one thing about God, he's not a genie in a bottle.
Right.
And he's certainly not going to be a God that's going to reinforce in us greed or the me monster mentality. And that's really what's behind all of it. It's just there's a greed thing about it. Like, well, God, I'm going to give so I can get and all this kind of stuff. And that's just completely backwards. But the idea that somehow if you're doing all of that and we're having enough faith, we're not going to have problems. I don't know how people read the Bible and see that. Paul, we've been talking about Paul the last few weeks. Man, they beat the tar out of that guy. They put him in jail. I mean, all kind like he didn't have enough faith. Yeah. But that's that health and wealth prosperity thing. And that's just something that's a real problem. I'm not hearing that quite as much as I used to. I hope that thing is going the way of the buffalo, but I'm sure it's still in some churches out there. It's still alive and well. But, he will bless us, but he's not going to bless us, so we can be greedy. And it's just a bothersome thing that people go down. And like I said, now on one hand, God 100%, we read from Malachi, will bless us.
Yes.
I can tell you right now that God's blessings are myriad and varied and all of that. And God is taking care of us. And I've watched God do that. Dr. Estep was telling us, my pastor, when we were down at Village Church, you guys were there, talking about how little money he had when they started and how God provided some unique ways to get food for the baby when they didn't have food for the baby. I mean, God will do that thing. Becky and I've seen God make provision on things when we didn't have money. I've seen God do that. But if your approach is like, I'm just trying to give to get, that's just kind of the wrong approach, I think.
Right.
But it is a problem. That health and wealth prosperity stuff is always out there, and you just got to reject that. I just don't, for the life of me, understand how people read their own Bible and like don't say, well, wait a second. These guys didn't have enough faith because you're just telling me if I got enough faith and I give enough, I'm going to always get this and it's going to work out my way. And that's just not biblical. So stay away from those guys.
Right, for sure.
Stay away from those guys. So that's just a little bit of thing on there. God is not a genie in the bottle.
Absolutely.
It's more religion than the relationship aspect.
Right.
Because you're doing, and you expect God to do this in return.
Right.
And so, and that goes back to motive and mindset. Your motive should be to obey, and not to get.
Right.
Because it's right, not to how can it benefit me?
Yeah, like I said, and it's hard to walk people through that because on one hand, God, as I said, will bless you 100%. It's all kinds of blessings, though. Peace is a blessing.
Right.
Joy is a blessing.
Correct.
Yes.
God
you
will.
Said this morning, we live in America. That's a blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing. Yeah, I mean, so there's just a myriad of blessings, and I do believe there's financial blessings as well. But if you're just sitting there, your whole process is like I'm gonna give to God. And I've seen people get up there. If you give God 1, He's gonna give you 10. And it's like, well, okay, God, I'm just but. So that some of it's just it's so worldly, and it's like Jesus says, watch out against all forms of greed. I can't look at that any other way than I'm being greedy if that's what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
Right. So that's just a thing to steer clear of.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks for touching on that.
Yep.
All right. So next we are going to have a little segment with Ava the intern here. And so she had a couple questions. Obviously, she sits in the service. She'll sit in the well, right now during her internship, she's like kind of helping out with host team, admin type stuff. But then she'll sit in the service on the front row with all of her H2O besties, and she listens to your sermons, and then she changes her cape and goes over to Waterlife Kids and serves with the Waterlife Kids. So
let's go.
Anyways, during the sermon today,
Thank you,
she's a rock star. But she did have a couple questions just from this morning's sermon, just from a young adult teenager perspective. So we wanted your wisdom.
First of all, I'm going to ask you this, Ava. Okay. How's the internship been? Have you had a good time?
It's been great. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Wait, it's good and nice.
Do-do-do.
Okay.
What is that?
You don't want to know?
No? Yeah, no.
Okay.
Oh, good night.
All right, but it's been good.
We must be past that.
Well, let me ask you this. What have you enjoyed most about it? So you've been working, we're trying to give you experience in a lot of different areas of the church. So what's kind of resonated? What have you enjoyed the most?
Well, hanging out with the one and only Natalie Phillips has been great. But
didn't she take you to lunch for you to say that?
Yeah.
Period.
She bought her one of those expensive coffees. That's what it was.
For that steak?
This was free.
Yeah.
It could have been an email.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's been great. I love seeing like the behind the scenes type of kinds of things, and It honestly, like, I love this church before I even became an intern, but I just love it more now that I see all that goes into it and the people that pour into it. So.
Pop off.
Been kind of eye-opening, hasn't it?
It has.
Being in staff meetings and talking about all the wildness we have to deal with
Lots
around
of
here.
life lessons learned.
Yeah.
For sure.
Team ministry from a different look.
Well, Ava, you're doing a good job. It's
Yes,
been fun having.
yes.
We've had 4 interns. For those who don't know, we've had 4 interns here, 2 working in production, Alex and Alan, and then those videos you've been seeing. That Alex and Alan have been doing those stuff, working on website, working in music and production, and then Ava and Camille working in kind of the ministry sides of things. So well done. So glad you're here, Ava.
Working with them.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
we love the young people.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So
right.
give me some questions.
You got a couple
Let's go.
questions, girl, so go ahead.
So, in the sermon today, I was just confused on what the difference between offering and tithing is.
So you're telling me I was confusing.
Exactly.
I wasn't clear. All right, very good. All right.
Thank you.
So the difference between an offering and tithing, because a lot of times, we talk in church. It's easy to get confused because we talk about we're taking up our offering.
Right.
Yeah.
Like biblically, the tithe is what, like, hey, bare minimum. This is what God asks us to do. He commands us. He wants us to do 10%. Tithe is a tenth. That's what it means. So bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. The offering was above that.
Yeah.
Like everything above. So this is what God requires me to do, the tithe, and then the offering was over that. So offering, we always look at it that way. So we talk about our tithes and offerings. We call it just the offering, but that's kind of the difference between it. So offering is over and above. Tithe is what God expects.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Offering, over and above.
Oh, look at
Clock it.
Natalie's
right.
Bible bomb.
All right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, how can I build a habit of generosity now instead of waiting until I'm adult and it's too late?
Okay. All right.
A loaded
It's never too late.
You start with whatever money you
But
have
yeah.
on hand right now.
Right.
So you start working God's plan when you're young. So if you're on the payroll here.
Get fired up.
I
We
just
take care of our
opened a savings
interns.
account
Oh,
last Friday.
all right.
So,
All right. Well, let me
Take
give
care
you
of our interns.
Yes.
So all right. So the earlier you start with this, the better off you will be.
Yes.
It will become a pattern. Like I said, that was the thing for me. My daddy started me and my mom started me on this so early when I was a child, and taught me these principles that it was just natural to me just to do this stuff. Same thing with Becky. So when we rolled into it, because we started young, right? We do the same thing. We did the same thing with our kids. We do the same thing with our grandkids. Becky, will bring the grandkids and she will get out a little envelope for them and she'll give them a whatever it is, and we're giving to God. So now you're not that young, all right? You're young, but what I would say is, you start doing Give, Save, Live. Now let me give you some more directions on Give, Save, Live. When it comes to giving, give 10%, save 10%, live on the 80%. All right. So when you prioritize that, and remember, the order matters. The order matters. So you get a paycheck from Waterlife Church right now, being an intern. Take 10% of that and give it to God next Sunday. You take the next 10%, you put in that savings account you own. And then you got 80% of fund money, do what you want to do. All right. You don't really have any bills right now. You're a freeloader. And like we all were as children. But what I'm saying is, like, you can go out and you get your expensive $high coffee with Natalie. You go thrifting with Natalie because Natalie can't stop thrifting. She got a new outfit every week. New old outfit every week.
New old outfit.
Well, it's new. You know what I mean.
Work it.
But you find good. Becky does the same thing. So that's great. So what I'm saying is, you do that and follow those percentages. I'm telling you, and you get in that, like, that will become the rhythm and routine in your life. Because remember, generosity is not random and sporadic. It's a prioritized pattern. So you just start with that, with what you have. Now you might, you're going to be stepping back into school and you might not have work for the next little bit, but maybe you get an allowance, whatever, but you still practice that pattern. 10, 10, 80. Give to God first, save second, live on the rest. Make that a pattern. I will give you a piece of advice too. Like, this is what Becky and I have always done. And y'all know Becky, right?
Yes.
She's cute. She's very cute.
Love her. Yes.
And Becky, Ava.
Becky, if you watch this, I love you.
Yeah.
All right, she's listening. She'll listen to it. So Becky manages all the book kind of stuff out. She manages paying the bills and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, she's good with that. But like, Becky will literally, the moment we get paid, the first check that she writes is to the church. I'm telling you, that's a spiritual discipline. It is saying God is first of our finances. Before we do anything else, we're going to do that. See, a lot of people get it backwards, and what they do is like, oh, I'm living on this, and then I want to say, oh, well, I don't have quite enough to save, or I got enough to save this month, but well, now I don't have enough to give. It is a spiritual discipline to go in that order. So when you will make that, when you get paid, that's the first thing you do. You write a check, or you're going to make that, whatever your online giving is, or whatever, you make that spiritual discipline. That's where you begin. But then, same thing. I'm going to save next. I'm going to save next. Now, listen, if you're a young person, you start saving at this age, and then like, man, take the Sangle class. They'll tell you how to start investing and stuff. Man, you have buku money when you get old. But, give, save, live, 10, 10, 80. Start working that with whatever finances that you have coming up. And I'm telling you, what it's going to do is it's going to create this spiritual discipline in you of I give to God first, but also I'm saving, so I'm being smart. That's going to protect me from debt down the road. All right. And that's going to also, I'm saving for things that, hey, there might be an opportunity to go on a trip with Natalie to Timbuktu. I don't know, whatever. And like, hey, I've got some money in savings. I can go do that. Right. And then, just being disciplined with living within your means. Like, I'm not getting on credit cards, they'll start sending you those things before long. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Cards, all that,
and you can get yourself in some major trouble. And so be aware of debt, beware of debt. But give, save, live 10, 10, 80, 10%, 10%, 80%.
Yep.
And that's pretty good. You got 80% to live on. You should be able to do that and just live within your means. But I'd get started on that pattern ASAP.
Yep.
Makes
Especially
sense?
since you're young.
Yeah.
I mean, and not negative, but you don't have a lot of bills.
Yeah.
You get that pattern, that rhythm routine now, then it moves upwards.
And remember, enjoy it. Don't like just because it's a pattern, a plan and a pattern. Like, there's joy. Like, man, I'm giving to God. I'm giving to what's going on. And remind yourself. That's why we tell people all the time, look, man, look what God just did here. You had a part in that. It's exciting.
Right.
It is.
Good question.
All right. So the next question, it kind of ties in. But how can I encourage my friends to be generous without sounding too pushy or sounding like demanding?
I set the example first because leadership's by example. I talked to you about that. That's why, we talk about that here as a staff. I mentioned that this morning. We won't have a staff that doesn't give to the church because we lead by example. That's why I don't have a problem. I can walk up there and I can talk about this all day long because I'm not asking anybody to do something I'm not doing. So begin there, lead by example. But also, maybe when conversations, look for an opportunity to explain the why biblically. They might see you giving. You might be sitting on the front row with your homies up there. Is that a term anymore?
Sure.
All right, we're rolling with it.
Yeah.
I understand.
Is that lit? Is that what they say? Natalie, tell me.
Just move on. With
all right,
your
I'm moving
point.
on. I'm moving on with the
That could've
teenagers.
been
But but you're sitting up there, and maybe somebody sees you do that every week, and you're like, man, how you do? You got well. This is what the Bible teaches, and you explain the why, right? Like the things we've talked about. So I mean, that's something. But lead the way in it with an example. I don't think it has to be pushy when you're sitting there, just like it comes up in conversation. You're like, well, I do this because God commands me to do it. I think it's a joy to do it because I get to be a part of what God's doing here at Waterlife Church. It helps me make sure money's not my master. I'm mastering it, and Jesus is. I mean, that's you explain that, and hopefully maybe that sways somebody over. But that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
makes sense.
True. Kevin, you got any wisdom? You got young kids at home. So what do the Burns do to help kind of implement this into your family?
Kevin's broke.
He's like, you just said I have 3 kids. So
in this podcast, I went from got it all to broke.
Just kidding.
It happens fast. Beware.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Very, very much similar to what he has just said.
Right.
Is you set the example, and of course they see it. With us, we have to be diligent about it because we do give online, and so they don't see us giving. But it's a no. We talk about it frequently. Is the first thing when we get paid, both of us paid, is that it goes to the church.
Yep.
And then everything else from there.
Yep.
And so we're trying to, when the boys get money, hey, give it to God. That kind of thing. And so I think, with that, and people, they have friends that talk about it, but you don't have to be pushy about it. This is what I do. And be confident in the why, as Todd just alluded to. Yeah. Confident in the why, and hey, I'm not trying to impress upon you, but this is what I believe, and it's a heart issue. It's a heart, and he alluded to it. I mean, the priority, and so that's what we try to get across to our kids. I mean, because try to teach them that what it goes to. It's not keeping the lights on. That's not the only thing, but it goes to the ministry. Right. I mean, just like he alluded to, when people come to Christ, when marriages are strengthened, when people go on missions and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and Ava, one other thing I'll give you. Like my daddy gave me this, and this has been such good advice. Do everything you can to guard yourself against debt. You don't want debt.
Oh,
like you don't want silly debt, and you got to be careful with that. And it's easy to get yourself upside down financially. So save. And here's what you'll find about saving. Like I found this with me. Sometimes I get fired up. You ever scroll through and you find these things, you're like, I didn't know I needed that.
Oh,
You ever
all
this
the
all the
time.
time? That's the
Every
problem
day
with the
of my
interwebs.
life.
The interwebs.
Ava walked into the pharmacy with me the other day, and it's got a little boutique
Oh,
area
okay.
attached to
This
it.
dress
Yeah.
came from there.
This dress came from there. Shout out to Melanie's Pharmacy.
You know.
But she, every time we walk in there to do our Amazon returns,
Then you're buying something else.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Well, that's like
Anyways,
today. I
continue.
bought another ball hat. Like I need another ball hat, like a hole in the head. But I'm like, hey, it's on
You're
eBay. That's
stressing-
a
you're
$5. It's
stressing
brand new
Becky
hat. I'll see if I put a bid in it. Well, anyway,
You
like
talk about her pillows, but look at your hair.
Natalie, I mean
Exactly.
Ava,
Oh,
y'all.
yeah.
We're gonna edit that out so Becky doesn't hear that.
Becky's going to really enjoy this
Yeah.
podcast.
Now y'all are messing up. I don't even know
Sorry,
where I'm
go
going with
ahead.
this. What were we talking
Never
about?
mind. Dad, have you ever seen something that you didn't know that you?
Yeah.
could
So
do?
what I'm saying, yeah. So here it is. So here's something I have learned. Like when you're saving for things and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy that. I don't have the money for that yet, but I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to save and get the money to buy that thing, and then I'll go and buy that. Okay, great. Well, sometimes I've found if I hit pause on that, then I decide a day or two later, a week later, I don't really want that.
Yep.
And everybody's had that point where you rush out and like, I'm gonna buy that, and then I'm like, why'd I buy that? I don't need
Right.
another one of those. And like, so there's some value in that on that end too, of kind of slowing down a little bit.
Right.
But just protect yourself from debt. I'm telling you, if you'll be disciplined in that area of your life, that's freedom. Like the Bible is not kidding. And it's such a great image. The borrower is the slave to the lender. And that is 100% how it feels like when you're in debt. Like I said, Becky and I had debt on a house and we couldn't wait to get out of it. And we were paying extra money like gangbusters trying to get out of that thing. And when we got out of that, man, praise the Lord, we're out of that. Like that was just like, that's freedom. I yelled freedom. I ripped my shirt and yelled freedom like William Wallace, man. I was
There you go.
all fired up like Braveheart
I'll
because
take your word for it.
yeah, I'm taking your word for it. I got photographic evidence.
Well,
of
and
that.
that's because especially at a young age, and of course Hayden's 19. I got to get used to saying that. But at 18, all these kind of credit cards come your way. And of course, then young people think, well, I got to build my credit somehow. Okay, and so what she has done is get a credit card. And it has about $200, and she pays it off every month. That's building your credit card, but it's not,
You're not leaving a balance on it.
Yeah.
You understand?
So
Because
paying
remember,
it-
a balance, you got to pay extra money, right?
Right.
That's interest, right?
paying off what you spend every month. So therefore, you're building your credit score, but you're not getting in debt.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, guard yourself against debt. Be disciplined in this. And Ava, it will pay off for you. God will bless you through it. You'll find joy in doing it anyway because you're just like doing what God asked you to do, and it's helping you keep money where it needs to be. And Jesus is the master of my life, not money, because I'm not going to let it master me. I'm going to master it, right? And you'll find it's just that'll be an incredible blessing. Also, another thing, there is no reason not to shop smart. In this day and time with that doggone phone and the internet, you can find the best price on anything like that. Like, I'm a big believer, haggle with them too. It's always fun to haggle. Like, it's like haggle with them. Like, man, I'll give you this. Like I love doing that.
That's not
No, but shop smart. I mean, shop smart, and just be smart about how you use your money, and remember, it's God's money. He's entrusted with us. Be smart about how you leverage it and how you use it. But man, work that plan. Start early. Stay disciplined with it, and man, that'll bring you financial freedom going forward. But remember, give 10, 80. Give first, save second, live on the rest. And so get started on that and get that going.
Realistically, it's that simple. I mean, you got the formula: give, save, live. Okay, work towards that. And he just alluded to her as a young person how to do it, but even an old person, okay, to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Go 10, 10, 80.
Yeah.
Okay, start some practices where you go 10, 10, 80.
And it's a whole lot, Ava, it's a whole lot easier to learn it the right way,
your age.
the right way from the beginning,
Yeah.
rather than to get your spine backwards and just have a messed up system and then trying to unpack it and undo all those habits. Better to get it right in the first place, just easier to do. So hats off for asking that question. Great question.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You're a good young adult, Ava.
Way to go, Ava.
You're a winner. You're a winner, Ava.
That's right.
It pays to be a winner.
Send this clip to all your friends. Yeah.
learning from the best.
Oh, all right. Now we're crying. All right. Now we're moving on. All right. So this
Todd
will be
and I
our
aren't crying.
last. Yeah. It's okay. Anyways, so now we're moving on to our last segment, and we wanted to talk about, we were able to celebrate with our Waterlife family this morning, just kind of give them a few highlights of what their generosity has made possible here at our church. And so we wanted to close out today's episode just by talking about some of those wins that we saw with Connect Camp. We're going to talk to Ava about her experience in Connect Camp. And then, why we do an offering here at the church and why we want to be a part of what God's doing here. So yeah, we're just going to kind of hit on that for a little bit. So
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, we don't do anything just to do things here. I mean, everything is built around leading people into a knowing, growing, going relationship with Jesus. We watched a few years ago, we can't get parents to send kids to camp anymore.
Right.
They won't go overnight. We had a great camp we went to called Camp Kid Jam. It was fantastic. We used to go down there. We never could get more than 20 kids to go to that thing. And that was a bummer because, I mean, it was an incredible camp. Then we ran across this. We can bring the camp to us.
Yep.
And so, all right, we'll try this approach. Well, it takes a lot of money to bring the camp to us.
Right.
You know, it really does. There's a lot of money. Ava, did you see that? There's a lot of money spent on this thing. And we're not wasting money. It just takes a lot of money to run this thing.
Right.
And so, we do this because we want to see children led into to see that knowing, growing, going relationship with Jesus. And of course, 13 did that. There's another one in the wings having conversations. There are going to be more because, there's going to be more because of those conversations.
Right.
So that's why we do that. But you think about the win of it all. You like kids across the community. We had a lot of kids outside of our church that showed up, especially that first day to get registered. I remember meeting a lot of families there. They came, they heard about Jesus, they had a good time.
Yep.
You know, they spent time around some great adults and volunteers who loved on them and cared for them and mentored them, and they had a great week. So there's just all kinds of good things that are come on the backside of that. But none of that would have been possible without the generosity of God's people. So, and we were able to do that and able to spend a lot of money on it to make a great week. And we believe it's a good investment. And I'm going to use that term. We shop smart, but it still takes a lot of money, but we invested in it and there was a return. So it's what a fantastic thing to do. So that's why we do it, man. It was tremendous. It was tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, and even this morning, to the left side in the first service, there was a lady there, two of her kids came. She was one of the ones that came up to us and says, "My boy's never smiled yet." And he smiled at Connect Camp.
Yeah.
You know, and then I talked to her.
Yeah, and
today.
let me say, and that boy's background, that's the grandma raising him, and daddy beat him.
Yeah.
And he's around men. He's just, so what a win.
Well, and she told me this morning, she goes, "We don't do church, but after this week, we will do church."
Yeah, awesome.
I mean,
fantastic.
I mean, that's...
Yeah, man, I had so I'm sitting there, I forgot what day it was, when it was Gospel Wednesday, whenever it was. Well, first one, Aaliyah Smith comes up to me, and I've known Aaliyah since she was little. Pastor Todd, I got saved. And I'm like, oh, fire it up. Well, then the next day I'm sitting around, and these two little girls that I know come up, both of them, we got saved. And I'm giving them hugs. I'm all high-fiving. I'm so excited. I mean, it was so exciting to see that. And I hope the general church, and I hear how the church responds today. They were excited about that. But man, that's what giving does. God takes that and he uses that to lead people into knowing, growing, and going relationship. And I'm just thrilled I get the opportunity to give. I look at it like a privilege, just like we read in the passage from 2 Corinthians today. They were like, man, they thought it a privilege.
Yeah.
They begged us for the privilege of giving. We overflowed with joy. I love that. So it's just great. That's why we do what we do, and in all things trying to lead people to a knowing, growing, going relationship with Jesus. And it takes resources to do that. And hats off to people that get that, because we had a great week. And I'm telling you right now, Natalie, you saw it, Kevin, you saw it, Neva, you saw it. I described it to the church family today. They handed Ethan that stack of spiritual conversation forms that had to be as thick as a ream of paper. And so I know we're going to get more kids coming to faith in the next few weeks out of that. And
that's where, there was a young lady that made the decision this year was in that stack last year.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Nice.
Just, just interesting. I mean, because again, she was.
Yeah, and I shared with our host team family this morning, I said, I want y'all to know that you are at a church who is very intentional about leading these children as they're making these decisions. So whenever we say 13, we mean we individually sat down with these 13 kids, made sure that they understood what they were doing and what was going on, what Jesus did for them, how that counted for them, so we made sure that they knew what was going on. And so that was one of the things that was just a huge impact to me, talking about kids who took that step. My nephew was one of them. And so just being able to talk to him, and the way that Connect Camp really just brought it home for these kids. And Joshua is our next gym pastor here. And one morning during our devotional, he brought up a good point. It's there comes a point where the gospel can't be simplified anymore. Correct. We try to put things into kid terms so that they can understand it. We don't want it to be way over their head, but at the same time, you need to understand the weight and the gravity of what Jesus did. And so Connect Camp was able to come in and put it on a 6-year-old's level, but in a way that that was impactful and they could understand and tell you. Because Kevin, I know that you have questions like that you try to ask people just to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what's going on. And so for kids to be able to answer those questions genuinely from their heart, and you know that they're really getting it, like that was
100%.
huge. And talk about those SAF forms that they filled out. Like I had 2 conversations. Not every conversation was a salvation conversation. I had 2 girls that had already been saved and baptized, and one of them, she had a question about temptation. She said, "Is temptation being disobedient to God?" That was her question. She is
question.
8 years old, 8 years old, and
good.
asking. So I told her no. I was like, temptation's not a sin. It's what you do with the temptation that can lead to sin and all of that. But then another little girl, she said, "I feel like I don't know enough about Jesus to call myself a follower or a believer of Jesus." And so I said, "Girl," I said, "this is a lifelong journey." I was like, "We're all learning." And so these kids are like getting
That's at
it.
8
So,
years old.
8 years old. Yeah,
Yeah.
both of those girls were right there at that 8-year-old range. And so anyways, it was a big deal, and Connect Camp is very intentional about their processes, and so that's why we've been glad to partner with them, and just seeing the fruits from that, and just the seeds that were planted this past week. It was just absolutely priceless. You cannot put a price on that whatsoever. So
100%.
Ava, I know that you were with a pack. We're going to kind of wrap it up here, but I know that you were with a pack kind of throughout the week, and but you were also kind of on the back end. You were serving as a student staffer, so you kind of get to see things from the lens of a Connect Camp staff member. But then you're here with Waterlife, so you got to be on both sides. So what was your perspective? Just everything that you saw.
It was really cool just to like see like the student staffer side of things, because last year I didn't get to be on that, so I got to see like all that they do and how they run things on their side of things. And it was so cool because I had multiple like of their leaders come up to me and they're like, "Could you see yourself doing this?" And I was like, honestly, yeah, like starting out, like I would love to just like travel around, do all that. So it was really cool just to see. I love how they do the 4 images and how they simplify it that way, because that really just gets on the kids' level, like you said. And just
the 4 images were God loved, God gave, we believe, we receive. Yep.
So it was really cool how they presented that and went through that. So the Gospel Wednesday was by far my favorite. Just planting those seeds and seeing those kids like really just, they're hungry for the word and they want to know more. And those questions that I sat in on with you were honestly some questions that I even have, like how can I grow like as a follower of Christ? And so it was just really cool and eye-opening just to see all those little kids just so hungry for God's word. So I'm just so excited to see what God does through those seeds that we planted.
That's awesome.
Indeed.
Yep. Get
That's
fired
awesome.
up. All right, Todd. So you had 5 points in your sermon today, and I think a lot of people, it was your last slide from your sermon this morning.
I give because.
Yes.
Because I love God, I thank God, I trust God, I want to be obedient to God, I want people to know God, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that what you're referring to?
So I just wanted
See
to
how I
kinda-
remember this?
Exactly.
See,
yeah,
I memorized this.
I had
I memorized
to take a
this.
picture of it, but I pulled the picture up just in case you didn't. But anyways, I just thought that was good.
Still locked in.
Yeah, I know. Yep, you've got a lot going on up there, that's for sure. But anyways, so yeah, I just thought that would be kind of a good note to close on today. Just those points, as we're talking about generosity, being followers of
Think
Jesus,
about
while
it.
we give.
Every time we give, if we're doing it the right, we're like, man, I'm going because God went first. Like, and so I give because I love God. I'm not feeling guilty. I'm not doing it to check a religious box. I do it because I love God. I do it in response to God to say thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I do it because what I'm saying is, God, I trust you. Like with my I put you first.
Right.
I'm trusting that 90% with your blessing goes farther than 100% without it.
Yeah.
That's 100% true. I'm telling you. A lot of percentages there.
Yeah.
God, I want to be obedient to you. God, you're telling me to be generous. You're telling me to give, bring the tithe in the store. Okay, I want to do that because I'm a follower of Jesus. I want to honor you with that. And man, I want people, bottom line, just like at Connect Camp, I want people to know Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give to the ministries of the church. And so it's a joy to do that.
Yes,
So
sure
there you
is.
go. So I hope everybody would do that.
Awesome.
And I know listen, let me tell you something. Hats off to the church family. We got a lot of people that do that. We're able to say yes to a lot of things because remember, yes to generosity is a yes to opportunity. We are able to do so many things here at our church because we have a generous group of people. Right. Now, I've been in other churches where I'm like, we can't do that. I couldn't entertain doing a lot of the things we do because, but we have a general, and we're intentional about teaching people generosity. That's why we're not shy about talking about money. You'll hear it when we do 8K for 8C. I use that language. Everybody can, and everybody should. Like, why would we not do this? This is what we do as a church family. We
It's
give.
in the DNA.
So. Like, we're thankful for that. It does open up the doors for a lot of neat things to happen. And so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give because I love God. I thank God because I trust God. I want to be obedient to God. I want to honor God. with my life right, and then because I want people to know God. So there you go.
Get fired up.
I'm fired up. All right.
All right. Well,
I've been insulted this today by her, but I'm fired up.
I mean, what else would you expect? So,
Ava, what a pleasure having you here today.
Absolutely,
awesome.
Ava. Absolutely.
You did a great job. So we'll have you back on again soon. So if you've got any questions, I wanted to include this today. If you've got any questions from today's sermon, whether it's on giving or something that you've heard somewhere else, from another podcast you listen to, or something you read in the Bible, or anything that you may have questions about, feel free to send those over to us at podcast@waterlifechurch.com. We are monitoring that email all the time. Any questions that you have, again, that is podcast@waterlifechurch.com, and we will answer those questions on our next episode. So we look forward to seeing you right back here next week.
Aces.